This time on Captain Chaos's laboratory, we're working on the Disney Village Light Up Cinema. Right there, which you can see right there, but there you go. So, doesn't light up. Go figure. I'm thinking they used the wrong power supply. This is similar to the City Hall one I did just somewhat recently. And it's a 3-volt unit. So if you put more than 3 volts in it, it's going to burn up. Well, I already plugged it into a 3-volt power supply. Right here. No lights. And there's no draw. There's zero amperage going through it. So the bottom is got felt. And we're going to have to remove it all. And it doesn't come off easy. Also, what's weird about this piece is, this is the front of the cinema. Most companies, including the last Disney piece, put the power port in the back, but the back's decorated so it's on the side. So if this is in your display like this, you got the cord coming out here and going off. So I think that's kind of weird. And then in the front, in case you didn't see, you got Donald Duck and I forgot his other half, Daisy Duck, I believe. It wasn't a big Mickey Mouse and Friends type person. So anyhow, this is a resin piece. So we're going to see if we can scrape this felt off. I doubt it's going to come off nicely, but we're going to try. So I got the corner to peel, and now I am pushing down on the front here to keep some of the pressure off that fire escape in the back. Yeah, it's just, it started and then it quit, which is usually what happens. The felt doesn't respond well to heat. It has a tendency to burn. I will keep the, let's see if we can get the stickers to come off. If I can get the stickers off, I can put those on the replacement bottom. The last Disney piece that was sent to me, it was pre-removed, so I didn't have to remove any of this. There's some tape on here that they put around the base where they glued it. So I'm just going to try and follow the tape line and set this on the side with the power supply so there's less movement. These stickers don't have the adhesive anymore, but you can put spray adhesive or paste on them to adhere them to the new base. So that way it retains its original look, and it has the consumer information on it, like the power, 3 volts. I got about half of it off. You can see it's got masking tape. I'm hoping it's not like the last one where I had to cut the whole bottom off, but we're going to find out once I get more of this felt off. This peels off pretty easy from the tape, just not from the resin base. Now, let's get this masking tape off. So the base has some thick resin. That's going to have to be readhered. Some of the garland just came off. So it's got a nice big cut, but I don't think it's going to pop out because they have a lot of resin in there. The problem is the resin glue they use melts at about the same temperature as the entire base. At least that's what happened on the last one. I don't know if it's going to separate with a heat gun or not. The last one didn't, but it had more resin epoxy or resin glue holding it in than this one does. This one looks like they skimped on it, which might be a benefit. But before I get it hot, I'm just going to poke and prod with a screwdriver. See if it's brittle. It almost looks like it's been replaced, and I'm getting movement. The reason I think it might have been replaced is because it looks like there's also hot glue in here. There we go. Well, that wasn't too bad. So we got 3 LEDs. So this one came apart way easier than the last one, which that's great. But we got 3 LEDs here. And then we have a fiber optic LED in here that's attached to the back. I'll show you in a moment. And surprisingly, these LEDs don't look bad. Most LEDs, when they're bad, they turn black. These are still clear. So I'm not quite sure what happened to them. The last one, though, had melted resistors. These resistors are taped. So I'm going to cut the tape so I can see the resistors. They have multiple layers of tape. And they also use masking tape, which I'm surprised because it should be a better quality tape like electrical or I forgot the name of the tape they use on transformers, but the reason being is this stuff gets brittle, and also masking tape, when it gets hot, it can burn. And electrical tape will melt, but it doesn't generally burn. That's usually why they use electrical tape. This is all masking. Well, the resistor looks okay. There's a lot of, oh, there's lights up in the front too. There's lights that go inside here. And those are hot wired at 3 volts. These have a resistor, and the lights that are glued to the top have a resistor. the power coming in and the two lights right here, there's two, I'll bring it up to the camera in a minute. They are direct power. So that means that there's no resistor, which means they run at 3 volts, which is good and bad. So I want to see if these lights actually turn on. One did. It's orange. Turned on for a second. I wonder if my plug died. All right. Let's see if I have a different plug. I'll try this one. So I have one orange light. Check the inside. Nothing else is lighting up. Nothing. And I lost the orange light because I set it on there. So this is going to have to be rewired like the last one. I think either it's a bad power port or it's or we got a broken wire. But let me take a quick look. Might just put power directly to the power port. I can see it. Just need to scrape off some of the tape residue. And see if that changes anything. If it's a bad power port, that would be great. It'd be a lot easier to fix, but well, that's not normal what happens. Usually on these, you burn out an LED or two. So I have it connected directly to incoming power. Oops, I touched the other probe. And I think there are resistors going out, but I still have no other lights. I have no lights in my fiber optics. I have no roof lights, and I have no marquee lights. So let me show you what's inside here. I need to get a whole bunch of lights and a new resistor. So there's the power port with the resistor. And that black that's taped on with, again, masking tape is the fiber optics. You see all the fiber optic looms. And there's the holes for the marquee, which those lights are going to be fun to get out. Then if you look all the way up at the ceiling, right in there, that's an LED. And then there's another guy underneath that basket of snakes or fiber optics. So, but with the one light turning on for a short period of time before it turns off, which I think is the resistor. I think the resistor has failed. Probably because it got overpowered. The lights are orange. So I know that these and those are orange. And whatever this is, and the fiber optic is 3 volts. Not too many LEDs are 3 volts. Orange LEDs usually run at around 2 to 2.3, 2.2, depending on the manufacturer. So, at least I have a baseline to start. What I'll end up doing is I'm going to Google and see if I can find this piece, a picture of it, lit, to see what this is. I don't know if they're whites, oranges, yellows, are they RGB? Because they are connected to... No, they're connected to the resistor on the... Right, where are they connected? Yeah, because they're connected to 3 volt incoming power, so they're not orange. I can tell you that, and I don't know how I'm going to get those out. That's also going to be a treat. Oh, this marquee has an access panel. That's how they did it. Just don't know how to get this access panel out. Yeah, it's really glued in. So underneath, there's a plastic panel that is glued really good all the way around. So I'm going to probably have to heat it up and get it open. And that's how we're going to get to those LEDs. The LEDs in the very top here are going to be a little bit more difficult because you have to go around all the fiber optics. The fiber optic LEDs right here, that's not too bad. If you watch the City Hall one, it's not that hard to do. You just solder in a new RGB rotate LED and reheat shrink it to the loom of fiber optics. I'm not going to tape it though. I'm going to hot glue it because tape is... They taped it and resined it. There's resin on the tape to hold it, but it's still masking tape. This stuff breaks down too easily. So I need to grab 5 LEDs in orange. I need to get an RGB LED. I need to get a new resistor. I'm going to also check the power port, but I'm going to get a new resistor. We're going to rebuild this, and I need to figure out what lights this up, what color. That's where we're at right now. So we're just under 20 minutes in and figured out that we got one working light that's intermittent. And I think it's once this resistor gets hot, it pops it. So I'm going to do a little research and get some parts. We'll come back to it. But at the moment, I'm going to stop for a second so I can do some research and, of course, acquire all the little pieces I'm going to need so we can get this thing fixed. Be back in a few. All right, we're back with the base. I can't get in here to remove the lights from the ceiling because of the fiber optic mess. So I just cut the wires as far up as I could just to get them out of my way, and I ended up making a stand. So I just took some wire. It's just floral wire, brass, and I measured the height. I was off by a little bit once I actually put the plate all the way in. I was guesstimating because you can't put it in and figure out how high up it needs to go, so hence the bend here. But it's better to be too tall than too short. And I added an extra light. There's only 2 lights in the top. I added a third. And the reason being is the fiber optics are going to rest on top of these 2 lights here. So I wanted one that protrudes higher up to ensure we get maximum light in the top. So I replaced all 3 of the bottom lights. I did raise them a hair from the originals. The originals were slightly lower. When I did just the base, it looked a little better being higher up because it's a different style LED. These are standard LEDs, and what this thing had before is called a straw hat, so it's got a flat top. And these are brighter. Now this is at 3 volts. I moved the resistor from the power to the base. That way when I'm moving it in and out, I don't break the resistor. The original one, which is right here, see how the resistors broke? That's probably what fried some of the lighting. This is the only light that worked in the entire unit. I tested all the lights individually, including before I cut the wires to test the 2 that are connected up top. They don't light up at all. And the lights that go in here don't light up. They're warm white, so I got some warm white LEDs to replace them. And this is an RGB rotating LED. It doesn't work either, so here's a replacement. I haven't gotten that far. First step was trying to figure out how to remove the glued on lights without breaking all the fiber optics, and it's just too much of a hassle. Long thin needle nose help, but you're going to snap a lot of those fiber optics, and these are pretty much all intact. So instead of damaging it more to make it original, we'll just reproduce the light in the top using a different method, which is just using floral wire. So you know what it is. It's right here. It doesn't say anything on it because the paper sticker that used to be on there, but it's just really thin brass. And I just wrapped 5 strands together, twisted them, and shoved it in. They got caught. I kept doing bends in it until they wouldn't get caught on the fiber optic mess that's up top. And this fits inside just fine. So the next step is to heat this underplate and replace these 2 warm white LEDs so the marquee lights up, and this will be the last part. Now, this is a 3 volt house, and somebody probably plugged in their own power supply. These warm white lights run at 3 volts. You can see right there, 3 to 3.2. Right now my machine is set for 3. This is 3 volts. This runs at 3 volts. It actually runs the same thing, 3 to 3.2. So it doesn't need a resistor. And the OEM, I didn't disconnect the wiring. They go up to the lights or go up to the RGB. There's no resistor. As you can see, there's nothing here on the entire strand. This ground wire is the ground wire that went up to the lights up top. The hot wire I just cut up top, and it's right here because it still had the resistor hooked up to it. So I'm not going to put a resistor on it. Now, these lights run at 2.2 volts, 2.1 to 2.3. I set them for 2.2, so that's a 10 ohm resistor. And I used a 1 watt, 1% resistor. So that's right here. Now I've had it running for about 20 minutes, and that resistor is absolutely cool. This resistor is also, this resistor is supposed to be 10 ohms, but it doesn't. It tests kind of at 10 ohms, but then it jumps to like 12 and drops to 8 because whatever internally broke, the resistor's connection isn't very good. But the color bands are 10 ohm, but the resistor itself is useless, which is what I figured. The other house that was similar to this, I think it was the Mickey Mouse City Hall, same thing. Wrong power supply was plugged in. At 2.3 volts, 2.2 volts, this tree of 6 LEDs pulls 0.15 amps, or about 1/8 of an amp. So when you do it at 3 volts, 10 ohm resistor, if you do the Ohm's law conversion. Also, that's what they had originally. The difference between what I did and what they did is I added 1 extra light. And these LEDs with such a small power consumption, it's not going to make much of a difference. That 1 watt resistor is affected by it. I would not use a 1/4 watt or a 1/2 watt. I would use a 1 or a 2 watt just to be safe. I also have 2 watt resistors. The last one I did required a 1 watt and a 2 watt because I have 2 different style lights. I figured this one being the same company may be the same thing. It only had 1 resistor, but just in case that started getting hot, because sometimes these made in China resistors aren't the greatest. So I let it run. I do it with all the things I repair. I let them run for 15 to 30 minutes to make sure that the components I replace actually work, because sometimes you get defective stuff. So this has been running for more than 15 minutes now, and it's not getting hot. So this base is now done. The next part is I got to heat up this plate, remove it, put those in, and then carefully break the resin so I don't break the fiber optics right here. So that's the next step. But I wanted you to see that even though I couldn't make it exactly the same, I can get real close. That way it lights up the top like it's supposed to. So if you have something like this, and it doesn't even have to be fiber optic, and your hands don't reach, make a stem. Use armature wire or rigid electrical wire like Romex because it's solid core. Or if you have some floral wire, twist it together. That way it's rigid enough to hold it, but flexible enough to bend it and shape it in directions you need. So, but I wanted to give you an update of what I've done. If you watched most of my videos, you know how to solder. That's why I didn't sit there and show you how to do the whole process of cutting and soldering on a resistor. The longer leg is hot, the shorter leg is ground or negative. If you don't know, on the negative leg, there's a flat spot on the plastic resistor. So if you cut them at the same height and you don't remember, you can use a magnifier to see the little flat spot they put on the resistor so you know which is negative. And I'm sure a lot of you out there probably do crafting, so you might have some sort of wire for bending if you have to do something like this. Not necessarily in this house, but in general for anything. But there you go. And by moving the resistor here, it will allow me that when I stick this in, the wire flexes, not the solder connection where it can break like that one. So just a quick update. So now I'm going to carefully get this hot to get the resin to break free so I can remove the burned out RGB LED and solder in the new one, and then try and get this to come out without warping too much to replace the 2 white lights that are in here. And again, they're warm white. So warm white. Not cold white and not golden white. So it's the range in between. But it's yours. You can make it any color you want. If you want to modify it to be bright white or blue or green or purple, pink, whatever you want to do. I'm trying to keep this as close to original as possible. So even though these are a slightly different hue, because you're never going to match them perfectly, because just like paint, every time you mix a batch, it's going to be a hair off. LEDs are the same. So they're still the same orange, not amber, and they're close. They're slightly brighter and a slightly deeper orange. I just lit this one up and compared them, and this is the closest I have out of the orange hued LEDs. So that's where we're at. So the next step is to remove this access plate and do the white lights, and then we'll kind of see how it looks back together. So it's a lot of boring stuff where you're just sitting around heating and removing and soldering and hot gluing, because we'll bring it closer to the camera. You can see I just hot glued this down. Now I did feed an extra long piece all the way through where the wires are to let the wires help put pressure on it so it hold it while I was gluing. and then I ran a bead of hot glue across the edge. I thought about zip ties or tape, but zip ties and tape seem to not last as long as hot glue. Most of these older pieces, when you pull them apart, the zip ties are disintegrated, and I don't want this, because it's metal, it's conductive, touching these. But I did what Limax does, and I used hot glue to isolate the connections instead of using heat shrink or liquid electrical tape. It works. Hot glue does not conduct electricity, at least not in low voltage. And the two biggest animated house or miniature villaging houses manufacturers, Limax, Department 56, use hot glue all the time. It's just cheaper. They probably have an abundance of it from putting their stuff together, and it works. So, but there you go. So I wanted you to see where we're at. Probably another half hour, 40 minutes of disassembly, soldering, reheating, re-gluing, and this thing should be done and ready to go back to its owner. So I will see you in a moment, hopefully with it completed, so you can see how it looks. I'll get this glued back in. We'll put some new felt on the bottom. Call it good. Be back momentarily. Okay, I went ahead and got the lights replaced, and it's all done except for the bottom adhesive. So before I kill power, and you can see this in the dark, you can see the lights are on. This I heated up and slowly worked it out. It took about 10 minutes of lightly heating it so I wouldn't destroy the plastic. There are two white, well, they used to be white, flat top or straw head LEDs. They're frosted, but they're not frosted because they're supposed to be. They're frosted because they blew up in here. The LEDs that I'm using, these are 5mm. These are 3mm. So I put 3 in there versus 2 just to try and make it brighter. But getting to it, just heat it up, it comes out. Getting the wire back through is hard because they fill the cavity between the porcelain or hard resin house and this is plastic with glue. So I took a small drill bit and with needle nose pliers carefully pushed it in and out from the inside of the house and used it to scrape out the holes for the wires that come through. Other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you watch other videos, you just solder the lights on. Red is the hot on this to the long lead. Black is the negative to the short lead. Trim off the excessive, tape coat, heat shrink the wiring if necessary. The only one that's different is the one that rotates in colors, which you'll see here in just a moment. They use green for the negative. It doesn't matter. As long as you have the power going in the right direction, the wire color doesn't make too much of a difference. So, the lights aren't flickering, that's the camera adjusting. But I'm going to cover these lights so you can see the color changing lights, which are these pin spot lights. That's the fiber optics. The only reason I'm covering the front lights is because the camera is picking up it as being bright. So you can slowly see those lights are changing colors. You can see the windows are glowing orange. So that tree or stand that I made makes it so those lights light up the top windows where before they had them attached to the roof up here. So the marquees all, whoops, I just disconnected the power. The marquees all hit, okay, power, I gotta push you back in all the way there. The marquees lit up all the way around, so are all the windows on the sides. The fiber optics are working underneath where Donald is. You can see the windows in the back. There are no lights that point down to illuminate Donald and Daisy, but I thought about it. I didn't want to ruin it. I'm gonna turn the lights back on. Here they come. 1, 2, 3. I thought if you have this piece, I'm going to unplug it so I quit catching the wire, because all of this is an adapter I made, and when I move it, that's why it's flickering. It's not the house. This plate, if you were to drill a hole directly above Daisy and Donald, they would be illuminated. Now, I don't want to ruin this house, so I didn't do that. But if you have this piece or one of the similar pieces and you want to make it brighter or do something like that, go for it. But you can also have this thing out front, and if you have street lights on your street lights will display Daisy and Donald. But every movie theater I go to that has a overhang marquee has lights underneath, so you could drill it out. You get a clear plastic plug or a clear LED cap and shove it in there so it diffuses the light a little bit so it's not as intense. There's lots of things you can do to modify these villages. I modify them electrically. Other people modify them with paint, or they make really cool fancy, backdrops or platforms. I don't have the artistic ability to do that per se, but when it comes to modifying the house electronically, I can usually do that pretty good. So there's only two things left to do. One, stick a new pad on the bottom, and two, fix the pieces that broke off. Now these were broke off, and then that one, when I was tipping the house, I put my finger up here and broke off one of the little spires, and this one's bent, and this one's kind of out of alignment too, but that's why we have super glue. So as far as the bottom goes, over at Michael's they have this adhesive foam sheet. You see it right there. So before I started filming, I set the house onto the sheet and then used a X-Acto knife to cut the square or rectangle I need. So here it is. And I did clean the bottom. I took apparently I missed a piece. I took a razor, this style, X-Acto, where it's flat. You can see the debris still on the tip. And I scraped off any of the high spots from the hot glue where I sealed the bottom, and the tape where they taped the bottom. Again, just the high spots, and the high spots of the felt. Now, I don't have any adhesive felt left, and I don't want to drive to Michael's for a 37-cent sheet of felt, so I'm just going to use foam. And then the reason I cut it before, because you can just stick this on and then cut the sheet, is because if you do it that way, you have to peel this off. And I can use this for another house or two or accessories. So I usually cut out the square or rectangle or shape first, and then do it, and then push the bottom off. It's because if there's any low spots, it won't adhere. So just push the centers. I know the edges will adhere, plus I can do that. And then we have a new foam base. So this is the Main Street Cinema, A Very Merry Mickey Christmas, with Daisy and Donald. Since it's not broke, it's literally just peeling off, probably because I got this thing really hot trying to separate stuff, and I think the heat gun, when I was holding the heat gun at an angle, I think I was pointing it at the spire, and it started to fall over. This one I literally hit with my finger when I was turning the house, and that was my bad. Wasn't trying to break it. But that is a somewhat shorter version. The other Mickey piece, I'm more entailed in how to solder all the wiring, the lights, but it's the exact same internal as far as the lights. It's just a different quantity and it's got a different color. The rotating light is still the same color. But basically, if you watched any of my videos, all of them are soldering wires together, pretty much the same. Now on the original one, this was glued to the bottom with these two stickers. I'm just going to put these in a little clear Ziploc and stick them in the box, so that way the OEM stickers are still with it. It's not something that a lot of people care about, but I've had a few people who've actually sent me stuff asked me not to tear the sticker off of the power cord, because if you have if you got Leemax likes to put 2 warning labels on the volume / on-off switch, and I've had a few people ask me not to have those tear off, because I usually tear them off because they're always in the way, and when you're manipulating the house, eventually they get caught on something, whether it's my hands, the bench, a tool, and they'll rip. So some folks probably keep it original. I'm not sure. I tear them off my pieces personally. I don't need any warning stickers. I know I shouldn't take it in my bathtub with me. I know it's not a toy that I can take around like a Matchbox car. And I don't have kids touching my stuff. So to me, it's just in the way. But because this is a Disney piece, and Disney pieces are highly collectible, I'll send these back if the owner wants to read here with a little spray glue or paste stick or rubber contact cement. He'll have the original stickers that go on the bottom. It's just not the original foam. So, but I'll let that cure, glue this on, we'll call it good, put it back in its box, get it back to its owner. If you have any questions, you can send them, put them below. If you have any pieces you need advice on, you can always email us. Our email address is in the description below. Unless you have the new YouTube, then it's on the right. But all the information is always available. And so this concludes this Disney piece. I'm sure if I get another one of these Disney pieces, it'll probably be the same. The internals all seem to be the same. The hardest part is just getting inside of them, because they really, really do not want you to open these ones. So, other than that, thanks for watching. Until the next video, have a good one.